882-06.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America?
All right, is this America or a lie? What a great intro, right? Yes, it's so true and so fitting in these days, right? I know.
We still asking.
Well, be true to what you said on paper. I said
Yes.
I always say that if one of them had thought somehow that they would think that women and black people were, they would have put in there right there explicitly that all white men are created equal. I don't think they would have included. That's just my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. We want to thank our sponsor, Guaranteed Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guaranteed Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guaranteed Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. Again, want to remind them, MAMLEO members that the MAMLEO meeting will take place today from 12 noon. You should have received, if you haven't, a Zoom invitation for the meeting. Again, it's a MAMLEO general membership meeting today at 12 noon. Also a reminder that the MAMLEO's regional meeting will be taking place on October 17th in Dedham. So more information that will be displayed today at the general membership meeting. It's been early morning. So like I said, you definitely want to tune in. A lot going on, a lot of updates on legal matters and things of that nature. So like I said, again, the general membership meeting today at 12 noon by Zoom. Like I said, you should have received the link. If you haven't, just text MAMLEO an email and they will send it out to you promptly. So folks, we've been having a spirited conversation here about the NAACP's visit here, what's going on down in Florida. They said that, Ron DeSantis and crew are down there, the legislators in Florida, are saying that it really wasn't so bad, slavery. It was really more of a job program for us than it was. We learned this valuable skill from that. And as Dr. Bradley has alluded, we had skill sets when they brought us here. A lot of folks there were professionals of more than picking cotton. Matter of fact, it was to their benefit that they enslaved us. So let's not get it twisted, and we should push back with our money. So I said, I want to also congratulate, like I said, our folks for being the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, who said they're going to speak with their dollars, and they're talking about $3 to $4 million that their organization, their convention would have brought to the Florida, the Orlando area. They said, nah, we're not coming. We canceled ours. My wife and I and my family were scheduled to go down there for a week, and it was going to cost us a pretty penny for that week. We were renting a house in a nice area for the family, have family, and we said,
I can tell you what that costs. I know.
Yeah, you're
looking about $3,000 a week.
Try 3 times that, right? Where we were going, because
how big a house?
It's huge. Like I said, it was going to be all her family and all that, so it was huge.
It
was huge.
But I'm just saying, for 15 bedrooms, for 15 bedrooms, it was $3,000.
Right. Yeah.
Plus.
Right. And
for a week. So
and that's not including all the other money you drop down there.
Everything down there is ridiculous. Yeah. I just got back from there. So
yeah. So we're
So you supported that?
Yeah.
State?
So
thank you very much.
Once again, we need to know the whole story. My mother has always wanted to go to Disneyland before she passed.
She could have gone to
California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. We took Mom to Florida to Disneyland. She had a great time.
Okay,
there is Disney World in California too. So
getting from Akron to Florida and getting from Boston, California's no big deal to me. Yeah. But that's how many hour flight for someone who's 83 years old.
No, I listen. Like I said, I know my personal. We're not.
Yeah, there's logistics involved with what I'm trying to say.
We're not going there, right? So again,
I'm not surprised that Pastor Dan went to Disneyland. I'm surprised that they let him leave.
What's that?
You surprised that why
they let him leave?
You're surprised. Well, you know, like I was saying.
If you saw my site, I was working on droids when I was down there. So yeah.
But I was saying, like with the governor down there, Ron DeSantis, as Trump calls him, the sanctimonious, right? I said, you know, you how can anybody miss that? You know, you have Goofy fighting with Mickey Mouse. Yeah. That's what it is, you know.
Meatball.
You know, and what's happening to him politically is just poetic justice. That even in his own state, he's trailing Donald Trump by 20 points, right? The arrogance, right? That like I said, they don't want a mini me. This is not an Austin Powers movie, right? They don't want mini me. They want the real thing, and
personally, I think Trumpism is much more pernicious than Trump himself.
It's a disease.
To be on the real side, I think. Although I see, as I mentioned earlier, that he's gonna be forced not to run as a part of his condition for his conviction. But I feel that the Trumpism is going to raise its ugly head, and we're going to have to deal with that far into the future.
I think we may be looking at another civil war.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that's it. If I have to go out that way, I'd rather be deceased, honestly, than to live like my ancestors. I can't imagine. Living as a second class. It's bad enough that you somewhat have to do that now, and I'm not going to be one of them. These folks, if they're looking for that kind of fight, I'll be willing to fight, because like I said, I am not going to be treated second class.
Don't you think that certain things will preclude you from office? So for instance, I know when I just took the little real estate class or whatever, right? If you have a felony, then they're not going to give you the state license, because then you can't deal with things like an escrow or whatever.
Right.
So if you were messing with secrets, right, right, and then you become somebody elects you, you win the campaign by some stretch of reality, you win the campaign. How could they then put you back in charge of said secrets that you were already?
Well, exactly.
They don't care, he says.
But this is the danger, and you just sit there and shake your head and say, how can so many people be so bamboozled that this person who has already shown that he has a propensity
he's a liar, he's a thief, he doesn't care.
He's a child.
Yes.
What he did with those reporters in that audio of him, it's like, look, he's wrong, I'm right, I'm always right. Here, look at this, right? I'm not supposed to show you this, but look at this, right? What grown person who has been the leader of the free world, who has the power of the presidency? No other president, they're saying he's saying he's being treated like no other president.
Because you're a criminal.
Because no other president other than Richard Nixon has acted in this way.
Well, I will argue that there's two sides of being grown. There's a physical side and there's a psychological side.
Okay.
He has not met the psychological requirement of being grown. I'll be honest with you, because he behaves like a baby.
And even to that point, I'll let Roseway go. Something interesting that one of the reporters picked up when the judge asked him. At first, he was offended. I'm sorry, because the judge called him Mr. Trump and not President, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then when she asked his age, he said 7'7". 7'7". Why didn't he just say 6'6", right? Because he is the devil, right? But 7'7", because people can't figure out you're 77 years old. Yeah. Well, he looks like he's aged 100 years since then. But I'm sorry, Rose.
But I think it's going to get worse. But go on, Rose. Go on.
No, I just wanted to. The fact of the matter is that his mother, his own mother, said he should not be president. That should end all debate. If your own mom is telling people that I don't think my own son should be president, I don't know what else. What else you need to hear?
But.
That's not a big deal. My mother would say the same thing.
But you're not running for president. He was.
But when you have a situation where I'm afraid that I'm losing. Mm-hmm. Think about this now. Yeah. I'm afraid that where I've been raised to think that I'm superior.
Right.
All right, and I'm losing that sense of superiority. Because I have, on the southern border, people coming into this country, and I'm saying they're just walking across the border, and those people tend not to vote in the way that I vote. Mm-hmm. Then I have black people who are vociferously complaining about, retribution and being, given, compensated for jobs, work that has not been done. Reparation, that's the reparation. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, reparation. So I have all this in front of me. and I'm losing that control, and I got to deal with this thing called political correctness. In other words, I can't be outright racist. And then I have someone who actually says, I'm going to correct all these problems for you. I really don't care what he did, and what he does.
Right.
I really don't care.
Right.
All I want now is that someone to actually make those corrections for me, so I can continue to live the life that my father and my forefathers lived.
But even all this, especially in the documents case, right? Even in the whole January 6th, all of that was avoidable. It was behavior, right?
Yeah.
So when someone says to you, "Hey, Dr. Bradley, something on my property went over in your yard. Can I get it back?" And you're like, that doesn't belong to me, but you can't have it back. And I ask you, and now you receive a subpoena, a summons from me saying, "Look, return Mr. Bradley's property to him, and this is over with." And you say, "No, it's in my yard. I have it." What they say, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
And now you force me to bring you into court, and now you're saying, "Well, this is a witch hunt, right? This is Biden's administration, right? No, this is your behavior." And guess what? And I'm shut up. Not one person that I've seen on this witness list is a Democrat or someone. These are people who you picked. You said you pick all the best people. And now these people who would not be as dishonest as you, because some of them went as far as they could go, are now saying, "Yes, we told you."
And there was a recording of him saying to Pence, "You're too honest."
Right. You're too honest.
You're too honest.
He took
excuse me. Aren't you sure?
Right. Pence
What do you mean
now
too
knows he's not going to win. He's now telling the truth about being berated by Trump in his office there. And he took copacetic notes. The saying, this guy was saying, "Well, you're too honest," means you have to be dishonest like me. Right.
Well, see, but I'm trying to look at this through his prism, the way he's looking at it.
And then you be in jail.
Yeah, that's where he's headed though. But that's
You go right ahead.
But I'm trying to analyze it through his prism.
Okay.
Because he's saying, I am going to socially, I'm going to construct this this situation where I can be victimized, so I can continue to raise money.
Right.
Yes.
All right. At an alarming rate,
Right.
all right, and use that money to deal with the
defense,
of this issue,
Right.
and then I can play victim, so I can continue to raise support to get back to the office.
Right.
Then once I'm in the office, I can pardon my situation, and kill all these cases and dismiss all these cases, and I walk away free.
Right.
And oh, by the way, I have the authority now to restructure government.
Right.
That's how I think he's viewing it.
Right.
And so if you really want to try to deal with a situation,
Right.
you have to look at it from the perspective of the individual who
Right. So the person I want to hear from, I want to get their perspective.
Oh, yeah. That's where I'm going.
Go ahead. Who you go ahead?
I'm calling on Pastor Dan.
There we go. Right, Pastor Dan.
What is your perspective?
You've been listening to watching all these indictments, right? Just curious as to what your take is on this whole legal.
Hold on to your seat.
Yeah. Did we lose Dan?
Is he there? Is he there?
Yeah, you lost Dan. Because you lost Dan. We'll talk about this another time. I'm not having any comment on anything.
That's fine.
That's
fine. That's fine with that.
Okay.
So we'll pivot back to that's fair enough. You don't need to discuss it. That's fair enough. We're not going to force you into saying. But again, what was that? That was he didn't want to speak about the place. It was like a bolt of lightning came through here. So again, gentlemen, how do we turn this situation around from where we are? Like I said, my big concern is watching our young people as I watched them over there the other day, as I'm watching the decline in their education. Right.
That's literally it.
We had this, this coronation is somewhat of the NAACP becoming the Boston, saying that Boston has improved. Boston is not the old Boston. Help me define what they were trying to explain that is different now in Boston.
They're not race riots going out.
Is that what it is? No force busting?
No force busting.
I think we have the answer.
Yeah.
So the answer is always, unfortunately, it's not going to change.
Right.
Men have to teach boys to be men.
Yeah.
Women have to teach girls to be women.
Right.
Black men have to be the man in their house and give the history and give the training and let other people and also black people as a people have to begin to value education. I started to say this earlier. When I was growing up in the school system, surprise, surprise, I was above average when it came to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that would be supported. You would think that would be trained. And, people would look and say, okay, he's doing this. Maybe we should advance this.
Right.
Who do you think told me that I should not rise above my raising? Who do you think that told me that I should not attempt to be, you trying to be better than me?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think, who was mostly in my face while growing up about my supposed brain power?
No,
you think it was white people?
No, I'm not saying. I'm sure it was probably, for me, it was a combination of both. Like as anyone else, it comes, like I said, that comes in all packaging.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess because I learned more during busing. I was a product of forced busing here. I think I had a better education under that, and believe me, it was tough, than what I'm seeing today, where kids can walk into any school in the city of Boston, in the state, and there's a lack of learning that even back then the state wasn't threatening to take over the school system. Jamal, how did we get here?
We got here because, surprise, surprise, when we had forced busing. I am also a product of busing, but I wasn't bused because of my race. I was bused because of my eyesight. I didn't have much eyesight. So every year, the quote-unquote sight saver program, where they had large print books and the whole bit, was in a different school district. So from first grade through sixth grade, every school year, I was in a different neighborhood, in a different school. So I learned what you probably learned as well. Folks is folks.
Right,
people are people.
But I also had a reinforcement. I see that in my home with my wife, because she's there primarily. Fortunately, we're very fortunate that my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She's a former school teacher. But she's able to get, and I know that's not the situation for everyone, but even back then, my mom would seek out sending us to the library, finding other resources to help us with what she couldn't help us with. I don't see that. Kids go to the library now to terrorize folks there. They're not there learning.
No.
So, Jamal, Dan has laid it out. How do we get this turned around? Again, I keep asking the same question, and I hate to be redundant, but how do we get it turned around? Dr. Bradley, you're in education. Do you see many black and brown kids in your school?
I will say this. You got to make smart people no longer like the anti-hero, because we keep putting up, like you said, entertainers, jocks, people, athletes. Those are the people that get respect in school.
Great
If
point.
you're a smart person, you're a nerd.
Right. You're a great point, because what you just said made me think about it. That if the late Dr. Ogletree or someone of a Keith Motley, if they had said, I need 100 people, 2,000 people to show up at UMass to learn about that, they wouldn't show up, right? The smart person doesn't get the response that the rapper got there to
show up for.
Well, to answer your question, and I'm assuming, I'm just leaping here, that you were going to ask, do I see people of color in my classroom?
Yes.
And I had that question a couple of weeks ago, and my response to it really depends on where I'm teaching. Because I'm not really fixed at one particular university. I kind of jump around. And if I find that when I'm in these, like the community colleges, like a Massasoit, I have not taught at Bunker Hill yet.
Okay.
I tend to see a mixture, more predominantly people of color.
Okay.
And when I'm going to like the Curry colleges, where it's a little bit more expensive to get into the program, I tend to see Caucasian folks, more Caucasian than I do white. I do black.
And to that, do you think that that's going to be even more prevalent now with the recent Supreme Court decision about race being a factor?
No longer
at Harvard, no longer being a factor at some of the institutions like Harvard, like you said, because of cost, not because of intelligence, but cost.
I think cost for college education is becoming so prohibitive that it's
outpaced inflation.
It's really difficult for people of color to get into these institutions financially, not academically,
right?
Financially to support it. So I also see a community of academia pushing to maintain a level of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I see that, and I see people talking about it. But I would say that it is not college is like any other institution in our society. It has to have a profit. You can't afford it. You can't afford it.
Right.
You know what I mean. And so I do feel that the recent decisions that the Supreme Court made around diversity and affirmative action will have an impact, an adverse impact on black people of color acceptance into universities.
But with a lot of these institutions, money is not a problem. They have endowments that are richer than some countries. Right? Harvard is a perfect example.
They gave $100 million for race studies, but they have $53 billion in their endowment. So $100 million was like not even a drop.
That's what I'm talking about. Jamal.
But some of those endowments, some of those contributions can come with strange attacks attached.
Yeah, they almost all do. Not some. They almost all do, because you're not going to get an endowment from anybody where you're going to be slamming them in the class.
Right, and I think we saw a perfect example of that when we saw the college scam, right, where these families, wealthy families, were able to buy access for their kids who weren't smart enough to get in there, right? But yet they always claim, so it wasn't about intelligence. It was about, do you have the check? If you can write a check, you can have access, and it shouldn't be that way, because education should not be based on your dollar, right? If you're eligible to, these exam schools have been a perfect example of that, is that people aren't paying attention as much as they need to the recent changes in the ability to be able to get into an exam school. Most people don't know that with the recent changes for exam schools like Latin Academy and the O'Brien, right? It is not it's no longer a test. It is based on your zip code. So by moving the O'Brien to West Roxbury, now those folks in West Roxbury have a larger advantage of getting their kids into a very...
That's why she want to move. There's a rationale for it.
Pay attention to that.
Okay. It's no longer a test. It doesn't matter.
No, your zip code is a major factor. Your zip code is the major factor now. So now the folks over here on this side of town, very few people, black people, have a zip code in West Roxbury, right? So now, if I'm a taxpayer in West Roxbury, and you're bringing this is going to increase. Yeah, I'm going to support this man. So this is why I tell folks, pay attention to what's going on. Jamal, any solutions for us? And then Dan, I want to hear from you.
Well, as always, in terms of education, the quote that, I think has been thrown about here a couple times, is that, when we expect other people to educate us, or those who expect, somebody else to educate your babies, we're fools. So the main thing is, of course, we're obligated. You got to enroll your child in some school, somewhere, whatever you're doing, public, private, charter, whatever, God bless you. But you have to be supplementing that with your own education. And see, for me, my intelligence as a child was always challenging. I also had behavior issues. I also had a real smart mouth, discipline issues, and all that. But in terms of my intelligence, the white schools that I went to, they viewed it as a threat. But also, though, too, my intelligence was coming up at the merger of the black arts and the black power movement. So a lot of the ideas and the conclusions that I was coming to were threatening to and contradictory to what they were teaching. They were teaching Europe is the center. I was talking about Africa is the origin of the universe. You know what I mean? So these type of things over the years have kind of made me who I am. And what I recommend to people is you have to provide your child like a plant, the proper soil, the proper water, the proper sun,
fertilization.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's up to them to grow on their own, but you got to provide that proper atmosphere. In the Bible it talks about train up a child in the way that he should go, right? And then when they are old, they will not depart from it. So things like that, beyond just the spiritual and religious meanings of that, the same thing. If you immerse your child in science and engineering and technology, there's a good chance that as an adult, they're going to remember that and may, adhere to those things. If you put them on to creativity and the arts, and you put them on to political theory and philosophy, So this is what we need to inundate our kids with.
I will say also this, that, when you do have wealth, when you do have resources and means, that your child can all of a sudden become diagnosed with, he has a authority figure, whatever.
Everyone is an IEP. All of a sudden, all our kids have learning disabilities. There's something in the water that we weren't drinking.
So again, you have the ability to get all these diagnoses, but as black folks, it's just, no, you just violent, or you just crazy, or there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, see, I think people are not really looking at the big picture here. The big picture is, in my opinion, this is Dr. Bradley speaking here. In order to get into the middle class in our society, which is beginning to dwindle away, or the lower rich class, college is the pathway. But if I destroy or I somewhat weaken the academic institution below college, so I have minimum amount of people that should be in the worker bees group of society, not attending college, then they can only stay in that area where they're working for me, not being equal.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Bradley, because when you said about college, because there are some folks now, a lot more talk about, is college really necessary, right? Because if you think about historically for black people, we self-taught, right? And we have some of the brightest minds who didn't have access to college, but they taught themselves that what you go to school, I get it, there's structure there. But there are a lot of people who can read, they can go and they can find the same information, but maybe not have to pay for all of the other trappings.
And I would argue that I will argue both sides of it. I would say no, college is not. But on the other side of that argument is, if established society values college as a way to eliminate people that
that's
look
where
like us,
going with this. That's where I'm going with it.
Becomes
because you're
valuable.
Saying that something that's not as accessible to me is what I need.
Yes, right.
But I can't access it. Right.
I can access it.
But if I have the intelligence,
it's not about your intelligence. It's about accessibility to this particular level.
Okay.
All right. If I don't have it, if you don't have it, I don't care how smart you are. It's easy for me to deny you.
Right.
All right. Because you don't have it.
Yeah.
I can see the intelligence by the way you're speaking to me. I can see the intelligence by your mannerisms. But I can now, because I want to control this particular level of society, I can deny you not because not because you're not intelligent, but because of what you look.
But even when you get it, right, a lot of times that is because they hope you don't. Then when you get it, it's not much easier to gain access.
I can tell you that. Just being a part of it.
Right.
But when you get it, when you're see the issue here. I read a book the other day. I just completed it. I struggled to get through it because I was angry. It's called The History of White People, and this sister from Yale University wrote the book. And one of the things that she made a comment at the beginning of the book that I thought was extremely accurate. And that comment was, white America does not have a problem with black America. Think about this now. It doesn't have a problem with black America. It has a problem with black America being in the part of white America that it shouldn't be in. It has a problem with black America actually being in areas that it should not be in. It has a problem when black Americans are becoming presidents. It has a problem when black Americans are becoming professors. It has a problem when black Americans becoming lawyers and doctors. But if black Americans become black Americans who's in the hood killing each other, I don't have a problem with you. You see it? And so if I can keep you in that area where I deem that you should be, then the school conditions that we're having today is perfectly fine with me. I continue to pay.
So it's by design. Exactly.
It's by design.
It's by design.
So it's a deeper thought, bro.
Let's even talk about that. The fact that they actually have the building right there in Roxbury, Madison Square Park building. It used to be a vocational school. You can go there and learn carpentry, electricity, plumbing, all those vocations. And now that school is sitting empty, not doing anything. And they're saying, why not rebuild and then reinforce that? Because they're always saying, we're looking for jobs and we can't find people to work. And then you have the actual vocational school right there in the city that can help rebuild the economic base. And then why aren't they focusing on trying to actually rebuild that school?
I think the answer to that is the same reason why they're not giving my brother with People's Academy the support that he needs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you don't have, I can tell you just from experience, I have recently had my kitchen redone, and I actually did it with the help of some friends.
Yes.
You know, and a couple of my friends are police officers who are skilled in areas like carpentry, plumbing, and electricity. You know, and while I can cut some wood and nail it together, I'm not dealing with water and electricity, Doc. You know what I mean? I'm just not going there.
Yeah.
But my point here is this: these individuals usually charge astronomical amounts for their services.
Yes.
All right. They know me. So they were like, Doc, you cool. You teach me a couple on a golf swing and we're cool. We'll barter. But where I'm going here is that a lot of folks, these individuals didn't go to college.
Yeah.
They went to vocational school.
Yeah.
And they learned how to be an electrician.
Yeah.
They learned how to be a plumber.
And then do you understand?
And they're making a very good living
six
at it.
figures. They're making six figures, and they're being able to retire. If they're part of the union,
Yes.
and that's another thing too. Like, why are they demonizing unions in this country? Like, isn't the union supposed to represent the people, the labor force? Like why are they so anti-labor?
Well, because the union, the unions usually come in and into play, and they start to ask for, advocate for the laborer.
Yeah.
In terms of benefits, in terms of money, which is now you're pulling from the bottom line for the organization. But let's ask some. Is Jamal still there? Jamal, you still on, brother?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the union? Why they villainize union? I'm getting feedback.
So it's funny. As an activist, I'm generally for the working man unions. It gets difficult though, because typically the couple of unions that are problematic is the police union and sometimes the teachers union. Those two are very difficult because sometimes they stand in the way of progress of regular folk.
Yeah.
So that gets tough. And then also too, even with some of the other unions, the whatever it is, the Teamsters or the iron workers or whatever, also too, some of them engage in some real meathead tactics. Even on something, where they terrorized my girlfriend that came to town, with the cooking show, Padma Lakshmi. The cooking show. But, they kind of did the bully tactics with the crew, like, you got to hire us or whatever. So, I wish that there was less of that kind of element, the meathead and the strong arm tactics out of some of it that exists. And I wish that the one particular police union here, because it's, the Patrolmen's Association, has, traditionally been the one that's been problematic. And the Boston Teachers Union, I wish there was a way to, smooth over some of the historical, disagreements.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm getting this feedback in my ear, and it's kind of interrupting.
I can hear the feedback as well. I don't know why it's coming out, but anyway, the thing I'm saying in regards to the union is the fact that it's like together. It's like when we get together, we achieve more. Trying to go individually, and then it's part of advocating for yourself and learning to advocate for yourself. And historically as well, unions when they first started it was part of like the mafia of them getting into like, hey, we're gonna withhold this job from being complete, or we're not gonna collect the garbage until you agree to our terms and stuff like that. And so my thing is, it's like the fact that unions are here, and then you do have issues with the police union, the teachers union, but historically, the reason why we do have a 40-hour work week, and the reason why we do have benefits, and the reason why we do have health care is because unions have advocated for the working class. And then so I see that as part of working as part of the solution as well.
Well, I understand that, but I feel that in some instances the union has weaken America to the sense that it's no longer industrially strong like it was during my childhood or during the time of my father and my forefathers. A lot of those jobs are offshore into other societies where there's cheaper labor, because the union has made labor so expensive here in the States. Now, this whole issue around bringing jobs back to the shore. And I'm saying to myself, how are you buying this? People, how can you buy this argument when, the cost of living in America is so steep?
Yeah.
If I own a company and I'm making widgets in China, and it's costing me 10 cents on the dollar. If I bring that operation back to America, it's going to cost me 95 cents on the dollar. Well, how am I going to sell my widgets in the market?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't make any sense to think that those jobs are coming back. American economy will have to change.
No. Of course, it's going to be the new green economy. Something's going on in that sense of like, but the traditionally, I would say it's not, and they always try to pit that, it's the immigrants coming in, but no, it's technology. A lot of times it's technology that takes over jobs. Like from, you know what I mean? Like, remember when they had like 50 people to be the ditch, to dig a ditch. Now you just have one
crane operator.
Okay. Like you used to have like the elevator operator, people that used to open and close the gate and everything, and now you just have buttons. You used to have like toll booth operators, and then now those used to be good jobs. People usually retire on those jobs and everything, but now you just have the transponder and just thing goes through. So it's like technology is taking over, and then people, again, like every time technology comes on, a lot of people loses their jobs, and it's like education is the key to kind of like dealing with the new economy.
Well, I think what technology does, though, I think I hear that, but those jobs, those people had to go someplace.
Yeah,
they had to go back into the economy and be retrained to do something to maintain a life. So that's one piece. The other piece is that to me, I see that as AI, artificial intelligence. Where are we going with that?
They're saying, actually, they're predicting over 30% of the jobs that are going to be automatically announced aren't going to be labor jobs. Are going to be intellectual jobs that like for underwriters, bank people. It's like you thought like it's all intellectual. No, that's where they think that most of the jobs are going to be lost.
But see, as a member of the black community, AI frightens me.
Yeah, because
when you start looking at you start pulling back the layer of the onion and looking at exactly how that works.
Yeah.
It's going in and it's grabbing information from all these different databases. Well, there's not very good information about black people in all these different databases.
Yeah.
So you're pulling information and then you're making decisions based on information. Then what makes you think that people that look like me will be healthy in 50 or 60 years because this particular robot or whatever that's out there? I mean, it's scary.
It is
when you start to think about it, and then the question becomes, where does all this technology leave people, black and brown people in society? You know what I mean? Where is this going? So we have to be very careful here. And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we're educated. We're not educated today.
Oh, no.
And that's my other piece, is that I'm gonna go back to this because I had a thought when we were talking about this earlier, is that we are depending on other people to educate our people. We're depending on funding sources that's not very kind to us to provide money for college education, but yet you have very wealthy black people. I had one brother who went to, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, who was a major speaker, was a commencement speaker at Morehouse, I believe. He just said, everyone's debt free
now. Yes.
Step forward.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm saying, there you go, brother. That's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need. If we're talking about educating our kids, we're talking about making sure that we're having people through HBCUs, because HBCUs was started out because we were denied from regular colleges.
And then actually HBCUs have produced more lawyers, doctors, attorneys, than engineers, than all the regular classically white colleges compared.
Precisely. So if we're talking about that,
then
okay, and money shouldn't be an obstacle when you got black people who are billionaires.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying give it to me. I'm saying give me a start. I had a question the other day when they had my wife and I, we were driving to New Jersey, to Newark, and the conversation in the car was about what would you do to benefit your people if you had won the $1 billion lottery. How would you use the money? I said, first of all, you're not getting $1 billion. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
We'll put that straight, because you got to pay taxes, you got to do all that stuff. So you're probably going to walk away with about maybe $3 or $4
$625 million this year.
Well, no, because you have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, no. If it's it was
That's-
1.35 billion.
Yeah.
They said you'd walk around with 625.
Okay. Let's, for the sake of argument, we say it's 600 million.
Yes.
All right, and so out of that 600 million, what will you do to benefit your people? And one of my suggestions, this is my suggestion, put 100 or 200 million in an education fund, and anyone who pulls from that 200 million, we all can pull from it, but you have to. There's a requirement that within a certain amount of time, you have to reinvest your tuition plus 10% back into that
fund. That's a great
back
idea.
into that fund.
That's an awesome
And so
idea.
so that way the fund becomes the foundation.
Yeah.
You know, that 200 million becomes the foundation, and then so all you got to be is someone who and this is how I see reparations. By the way, you know what I mean.
And speaking of reparations, we
Yeah.
were having a conversation earlier, and that was one of the things that we pointed out: the fact that Jewish people got an apology, Japanese people got an apology, but we as Black Americans
Never got it.
still have never gotten an apology
we're
and an
still
acknowledgement
Yeah.
of like what
Yeah.
we've been through. Like we're still suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and they refuse to acknowledge that has been that. Oh no, it happened so long ago. It's no longer in effect. No, like it's been reincarnated in so many different forms. Like after slavery came the Reconstruction, and then came the Jim Crow. You know what I mean? So it's like no matter what, every time we've made progress, there's always been a pushback to the progress. And then so we're here, like you said, the Obamas came to the White House, and I think that they lost their mind, and that's why that Trump was elected right afterwards. And then so it's still the whole idea of like, hey, are we losing our status in the world? What is going on here?
That's the fear.
Yeah.
But I this whole issue around reparations for me is that you denied access to America.
Yeah.
You enslaved me.
Yeah.
That my ancestors actually worked and they never got compensated
Yeah.
for it. You know, so educate me.
Yeah.
Pay for my education.
Yeah.
All right. And so how do you do it? One of the ways that just what I just said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think it's important for us. I think education is the equalizer, and education is the key. So do we have a call?
Do we have a call?
Okay.
Heard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'd like to push back with much respect to you, Dr. Wiley, about reparations.
Okay.
I think reparations should be based on lineage and should be cash payments only from the federal government, because let's face it, the states, they're not going to push reparations, because here in Boston we have this so-called commission about reparations, and last time I checked, there was no study or commission for reparations for Japanese Americans after what happened during World War II. There was no commission or study on the Jewish Americans when they got paid their reparations. So Black people is the only people in this country are still getting, as Malcolm X used to say, still getting bamboozled, though.
I agree. I mean, I'm saying what I'm trying to do, and I recognize and I appreciate your pushback, because I think it's all about good discussion. But I think that America has such a reluctance to recognize, to apologize, and to move forward as relates to reconciling, with Black America over this slave issue. It is the original sin of this country, and we still is a sin.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And we all have certain ways that we feel that will be comfortable with paying for those compensating for those services.
Yeah. I mean, look at South Africa. I mean, they said, they actually acknowledged it, and they're still. I mean, they're not the best, but they still are a country, and they're still functioning. Okay, it didn't destroy the country. It didn't. So the idea of we acknowledge this. It's like it's something that's long overdue, and it like you said, it's the original sin of this country, and that's one of the things that's still holding us back.
I just don't see how we can move forward as a nation. And I recognize that there's an element of our society that don't want to move forward. As a democracy, they don't want to move forward. With correcting or recognizing and correcting the slavery issue. They want to keep things as they are. You know what I mean? And there's a push, but what I'm afraid for my country is that young folks, now I'm over 60, young folks in my day, young folks will just pray on it and keep it moving. In today's society, that's not going to work. No. You know what I mean? We have very few young people in church. You know, young folks are not going to pray over this issue. Young folks are going to move forward, and they're going to actually fight over this issue. And so I do see, I am afraid for our society.
Some of the comments is actually on social media. Patrick Wilson says hello to you as well as to everyone. And he says, we are already in a civil war. He says it's a pecking order that Dr. Bradley is talking about. And we also wanted to thank Jamal for his contributions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, Jamal, do I have any callers there?
I'm still here.
Jamal, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Well, brother, I appreciate you standing there, both of you guys listening to us here like this. But what are your comments on this reparation thing in slavery? Anyone can pop in.
You know, so as you know, this is my thing. I'm still there. So just as you know, I've been involved in the whole movement for reparations for a long time, and I just want folks to really have a grasp in terms of studying it, because we make a lot of errors. Number one, America can't be the only focal point of reparations. This is a global thing. So just for me, my family was not just aggrieved by America. We were also aggrieved by England, right? And then when people talk about like the lineage aspect, Black American, right? My people who were born here, but also have blood in us from Cape Verde, also Native American blood, and also Jamaican blood, but born here. So it's a very complicated issue, and I think a lot of people are attempting to simplify it. And then also too, the cash payment thing, we have to be really careful with that, because reparations has to come in the form of the infrastructural type of repairs to the damage that was done through, yes, education, land, agriculture, these type of things.
Okay,
I agree. I agree with
I
that.
like that. How about Pastor Dan? Are you there? Is Pastor Dan on? Apparently, he must have just felt like, well, I'm tired of the conversation. I'm not gonna worry about it. Pastor, go on. We had who was the other person on? Who?
His name is Ditko.
Ditko.
He's on the line, and you have Jamal.
Okay, thank you very much. Ditko, what's your comments on reparation other than what you gave us? You have anything else you want to add on it?
Yeah, with much respect to Jamal Crawford, when it comes to infrastructure, that's on every country's responsibility, not just here in America, but it's the top of the list for every country. So infrastructure is always going to come and go. Let's be clear about that. It's not something it's going to be fixed overnight. Also, when it comes to the educational piece, I can educate people on anything. I can make a lie and say, well, I just educate you about how to lie. Yeah? Now, it's up to you whether or not to take it. Because last time I checked, grown men and women are still free people. We have choices, and yes, our choices can also be consequences to our actions. So again, I like Jamal Crawford. I respect the man, but we still are grown adults. We have choices to make, and yes, those choices can be consequential. But yet, we are still, keep in mind, we are still free people. I gotta put that out there. Nobody's forcing us.
Now.
Yes, nobody's forcing us to do anything that we don't want to do.
For now,
I will just kind of like point the fact that we are free people, but again, we're being treated unfairly and unjustly. So we don't get the same to the oppressor. When you say equality, like if you're a person of privilege, whenever you say equality, then you, as a person of privilege, you feel that it's an attack on you. Because equality means that, now everyone's going to be the same. So if you're in power or if you're above people, like equality scares you. So the idea that reparations, I guess it's just the beginning. It's a commending step, because if you're able to do reparations for, like I said, the Japanese people that went through internment camps, and you're able to do reparations for people that suffered through the Holocaust, certainly can do reparations for people that endured slavery for hundreds of years.
Well, see, but I want to add that I think reparations is only one step.
Yes, it's the beginning.
It's the beginning to it, because I think if you give me,
you're gonna have to,
regardless of the form, Dick is arguing for cash, Jamal is arguing structure, I'm arguing, a somewhat similar, a combination of the two.
Yes.
But if you don't, whichever method you choose, and if you don't repent and change what you're doing, then it's not worth it.
Very true.
Like Larry made a comment on the phone about education, the lack of education and the money. You know, and I'm trying to. He said slavery is low wages and a lack of education is the functional equivalent. You know what I mean? So if society provides compensation in whatever form it chooses to do, and recognition of the issue and apology, but if you move forward with this functional equivalent of slavery, you're
still in the same boat.
We still got a problem.
Yes.
You know, we still got a big problem. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of think about how do we make society free and fair to all people? How do we actually change our housing policy so that people are fair, have housing? How do we change our education policy so our kids are educated? How do we change, our society employment policies and all those different public policies that actually tend to govern the quality of people's lives?
They said 3 presidents have tried to get universal health care because all the other industrialized countries have universal health care.
Why doesn't America have
it? They said because they would give black people free health care.
Well, actually, it stems from slavery.
Slavery, yes.
It stems from the Free Men's Bureau.
Yeah.
When Howard, the guy who actually General Howard, who lost his leg in one of the battles of the Civil War, who's from New Hampshire, who actually established Howard University, which is where our vice president is as a graduate from, alum. Actually was given right before Lincoln got assassinated. He did 2 things. One was to establish the Free Men's Bureau.
Yes.
All right, and he knew, and the other one was about making sure that black soldiers were compensated for their services. But he knew that as black people, slaves were just released.
Yeah.
They were not they would just say, okay, now you're free. Go.
Yeah.
All right.
And like if they don't have any structure,
they had nothing. So this whole idea about slavery, slaves being able to make it and pull themselves up by the bootstrap. And I think King said it well. How can I pull myself out for the bootstrap when I don't have a boot? It's just that simple. Yeah. But my point here is that in this Free Man Bureau basically said that we need to have health care for former slaves, white folks, Republicans, and Democrats. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not. They want to be free. Now they're free. Now see what they do.
Yes.
All right. So that's why America is is the only industrialized nation that doesn't have universal health care.
Yeah.
It stems from the fact
that black people were going to get health care.
Yes. And that's why you have education is the same way.
Yes.
We're not going to give you the education, although.
If we do give you the education, it's going to be miseducation.
Absolutely, I was victimized by that. But even public education in the South was established as a part of the Free Men's Bureau. All right, I mean, so they had established education in the South because in the North they had a public education entity, but in the South, the poor white people didn't go to school either.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And then they realized, hey, listen, we got something here. So they started to actually implement education at the public level. We have 4 minutes left. You have some comments? Sure.
One comment. Patrick Wilson says, reparations equals get land. Tangible things. Money is paper and digits and has a subjective value.
Okay. Well, I would argue in today's society, in the very near future, the way I'm hearing in the financial market, that paper money will become.
They're trying to make it obsolete.
Obsolete.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's also saying. Is he's saying money is paper and digits and has a subjective value, meaning it can, we're talking about Bitcoin, these kind of things. It can be.
Yes,
but so he's saying reparations equals, in his comment, is get land. We're talking about
something where you
that's what he's saying.
Yes, get land. Get land.
Land.
Okay.
Yes.
He's saying that's tangible.
Yeah,
that's something that will,
no matter what it'll go.
This equity that we talk about, $8 an hour for $247,000 has nothing to do with land.
I agree with that.
And then land, it's something you can hand down and can build intergenerational wealth. Yes, and that's another thing too. Like when we pass away, we leave debt to our family. Yeah. And when other members of society pass away, they leave factories, they leave endowments, they leave houses, they leave things for them to be able to say, oh my God, like they have something to keep working on. Yeah. Like every time, like when we pass, like unfortunately when we pass away, like everything that you work for. Yeah. Kind of goes away because in this country, if people don't,
it dies with you.
Yeah, in this country, if you don't realize it, probate is the biggest court system in this country. More money exchanges through probate than any other court system. And it's like in probate, it's the only court system where you're not guaranteed a speedy trial, you're not guaranteed a trial by a jury, and you're not guaranteed representation. Any other court, hey, if you don't have a lawyer, one will be provided for you. No, not with probate. Probate, if you die without a will, everything that has your name on it, from the house, the car, the stock, the bond, whatever it is, has to go through probate. And probate, the rule is, because it wasn't in the will because you didn't prepare this before you passed away, because it had to come into this court. In Massachusetts, most states, it works. 30% goes to this the court, 30% goes to the attorney that you have to hire. You can't get and the rest is left to you, 40%. And a screaming example, or a really bad example, is Prince. When he passed away, let's just say he was worth $100 million. In the state of Minnesota, if you die without a will, 80% of your estate goes to the state. Okay.
Wow.
So it's not. It's
10 to the Walaya, 10 to the family.
No, and that's the thing. And most people don't get financial literacy. They don't understand the whole idea of being prepared for the end, and it's like your exit strategy. And then so people don't understand how important it is to actually talk and talk. Like if you have a will, do you understand like how many families break up because during the funeral they're fighting over what's going to happen? But if you have a will, everything's laid out. Your family doesn't have to fight. It's like mommy or daddy, this is what they wanted, and we're going to follow what they said on paper, and that's all and then everything is kind of organized. The family still stays together. There are families that break up and no longer talk to each other because of a funeral. And then so it's just
well, I tell you, I was thinking when you read this brother's comment that aristocracy